Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. First of all, let me thank you, the National and International Conference organized by Faculty of Liberal Arts, Thammasat University, for letting us present part of our research project named AI Ready City Networking in Run, Thai Emotion Corpus Creation, here today, July 27, 2022. The title of the article is Context and Codex for AI Training, a case study of spoken text in happiness and sadness situation in Thai. Let me start by saying a few words about me and my team. I am Suthasini Piyapasunthara, Associate Professor of Thai Department, Liberal Arts, Thammasat University, and my research assistants, Athapon Chu Kaew, Viyada Siri Chanasap, กมลรัตน์สืบเสาะ จัญญามนคำหลอด from Master of Arts in Thai, Liberal Arts, Thammasat University. I divided my presentation into 6 main parts. My first point concerned why we study. Then, what is the key concept we use in this article? NLP, holistic view, situation of the conversation we study, happiness and sadness, and then data and result, and then conclusion and acknowledgement. As you know, language plays an important role in the digital world and turn out to be a big data for AI training. Generally, machine training provides a separate input to machine learning process. But for training machine to understand everyday conversation, which full of the meaning must be interpreted in a complex way, such as satire, irony, and emotion of the speaker. This article proposes a holistic view for the benefit of AI training in order to understand human as much as possible. Everyday face-to-face communication. There are many factors that determine the way of interpreting the meaning of language, especially the emotion of the speakers, tone of voice, eye tracking, body, gesture, and etc. Here, this paper will start with facial expression while the conversation continues. As you know, NLP or natural language processing was defined as the ability of computer to understand human language, which is a component of artificial intelligence. Teaching AI to recognize linguistic phenomena which express a variety of emotion, knowledge of linguistic context and context is essential. This idea have a consensus with Furin and Forrestai, who proposed this article, Context and Codex, and Situation in Fusion Domain in 2011. This paper, we call them holistic view, the factor that determine the way we interpret the speaker emotion. There are not only the text, but also codex and context. Codex is the text that's come before and after the text which are the target of analysis. There are important conditions that allow humans to understand the speaker's emotion. For example, the pause filler like is used as a discourse marker when the speaker wants to hold his turn, such as let's see, let me think. It can be interpreted that the speaker is in straits or unhappy emotion. But sometimes the speaker uses this kind of as a marker of happiness. in some contexts, like when the speaker and listener work together to think about something that the speaker figure it out. He say, then say, yes, I got it afterward. In this study, we proposed that beside text, facial expression that came along or came before or after the text are also nonverbal clue to ease the analysis of the speaker's emotion. Let's talk about the context. According to Poirier, 2019, context is an important aspect of natural language processing research. It is a component of modeling NLP that can understand and generate language in the way of human communications. In this paper, context is one of the major factors that determine the way of interpreting the meaning and play an important role in determining the speaker's emotion while talking. For example, the circumstances surrounding the text, such as participants, situations, societies, and cultures, change the interpretation of the conversation. For example, with friends, Thai parents should usually talk about their own kids' unpretentious for humorous purpose. But with more formal situations, such as with family doctors, the parents talk with formal expression, neutral way, not showing emotion. In this study, we divided the context of situation in two ways. Examples of happiness situations found in the study are the narrative of the funny childhood, family joking, or love story. Example of sadness situation are painful childhood story, family member pass away, or broken heart.
ที่ไม่ผู้หญิงนะเราก็จะรู้สึกว่าลูกเราเรียนบัลเล่ต์ทำไมอะไรอย่างเงี้ยแล้วก็เราก็เคยถามลูกว่าอลินอยากเรียนบัลเล่ต์ไหมลูกเขาก็บอกว่าไม่เรียนจนเขาเห็นเพื่อนเขาแต่งกระโปรงทูๆอ่ะวันหนึ่งเขาก็เดินมาบอกว่าหนูจะเรียนบัลเล่ต์อ่ะอยากเรียนก็ให้เรียนอะไรอย่างเงี้ยอยากใส่ชุดแล้วก็นางก็กลับมาบอกว่าวันนี้หนูเป็นลีดเดอร์ในห้องซึ่งวันนั้นนางเรียนคนเดียวแต่ถ้าเราเป็นแม่เราจะเบรกก็แบบเอ๊ะไม่ได้เดี๋ยวมีปมตอนโตแล้วก็
มีความภูมิใจมากเต้นนำเต้นอยู่ตรง
I pick up the example from TV program. Let's see. The emotion of the speaker, which are shown in this clip quickly and complicatedly. The stress expression on the speaker face happened for a while, showing teasing her kid when she talked about her, and her kid decided to be a leader in ballet. It's a pity girl. Then happiness expression suddenly appear as the listener expressed their agreement with the speaker's joking. Another example, it's from the experimental data that we use to the consent form. So we have to blur the picture into cartoon-like picture. This is the example of sadness situation as well. We could find a small period of time when facial expression will express the opposite of real emotion. A sad smile. We found outstandingly in Thai when he or she telling a sad story. Instead of sad, she smiled faintly. It can be said that facial expression may show or may not show the true emotion of the speaker. Analyzing the speaker's true emotion requires consideration of facial expression as a context. What is emotion? For Ekman 1987, emotion is a particular kind of automatic assessment influenced by evolutionary and personal past. As set of psychological changes for human, emotional behavior happen to deal with the situation, and Robert Puchik divides emotion into different categories, as follows in the picture. Facial expressions are the movement of many muscles by work of the facial nerves. Ekman and Friesen in 1987 retest across cultures and find the universality of emotion. For this paper, the research question started from the belief that facial expressions reflect the change of the state of emotion of the speaker spontaneously with the thing they say. The tools of this study is called Action Unit, or AU. It was publicized by Brian Frynward for iMotion Platform, a collaborative platform for worldwide researchers to explore the human mind and brain. We find it very useful for AI training projects. Action units are corresponding to facial muscle, which is indicated by a number. For example, AU1, AU2, and etc. as the picture. Action units are combined to construction that made up an emotion expressive unit. The data in this project was supported by the project of Mahidol University named Building a Nonverbal Emotional Expression Database from Psychology Consulting Process for the Development of AI Model for Emotion Recognition. MUCIRB is in full compliance with international guidelines for human research protection, such as Declaration of Helsinki, the Beaumont Report, CIOMS guideline, and the International Conference on Harmonization in Good Clinical Practice, date of approval on 6 October 2021. The data was collected by motivate participants in achieving the target emotion. First, a description of the situation related to target mood and reflect on their own experiences. Second, classical music without vocal was selected to stimulate the target emotion. Narrative were collected from 4 participants who narrate their own experiences. Here is the result of our project. The table 1 shows there is a greater number of utterance in narrative with happiness situation than narrative with sadness situation. For the preliminary observation, this paper used random sample of 200 utterances from the total divided into 50 utterances that describe the happiness of the first participant and 50 of the second one. Also, 50 utterances describe the sadness of the first participants and 50 for the second one in the same way. The percentage in Table 2 is exactly clear that more matches were found than non-matches. But it's worth nothing that mismatch account for 1/3 of all utterance with this portion if the hearers consider only the facial expression alone. Emotion may be inaccurately interpreted. The percentage in Table 3 is exactly clear. Matches cases were found than non-matches in 1/3 of all utterances. The importance of holistic analysis even further requires us to focus on it. There are quite several emotions where facial expression did not match with its own verbal expression co-occurrences. 27% in happiness and 30% in sadness situation. Interestingly, in that happiness situation, the face of several participants show happiness, but words show straight or sadness. The girl in the picture, ever she smile in happiness situation, but her words said, I have concern with anxiety emotion. On the other hand, facial expression shows sad, but verbal expression in his or her storytelling without emotion or neutral. So, it is particularly important. Emotion must be judged from both components, verbal and nonverbal cue. Because if you look at either of them to prevent misinterpretation of the speaker's emotion. The conclusion and suggestion is that the order of analyzing the emotional meaning of Thai conversation should be considered in the following way: text, and then co-text, and then context. It can be explained that when the word don't convey the clear emotion, look at the co-text. When the co-text doesn't convey any clear emotion, look at the context. However, considering verbal along with nonverbal is the more prudent interpretation. This research suggests that in the future study, it should focus on expressing the emotion along with nonverbal, including facial expressions, gesture, tone of voice, and concept of emotional psychology quite a lot, with not direct field of expertise. However, this project is just an initial phase of analyzing verbal data along with nonverbal expression, and hope that in the future we can study facial expressions, tone of voice, and body language with the verbal one and as co-text. Finally, the paper operates under the project AI Ready City Networking in RANS, and the data was supported by a project of Mahidol University as mentioned above. Thank you for good cooperation over the past 2 years. And thank you for the references that give us knowledge. And most of all, thank you the audience. And thank you the Faculty of Liberal Arts, Thammasat University. Thank you.